So guys, let's talk about 28 Years Later, the upcoming sequel to the 28 Days Later zombie franchise. It looks like they're going all in with a trilogy planned. We have some brand new plot details that we're going to get into, break down these details surrounding the 28 Years Later movie, and also we're going to take a look at the leaked images from the set of the movie itself, and we're going to take a look at some images of the filming locations within the movie itself as well, so we can get a better indication of what we're in store for when this movie hits theatres. So let's jump into this article, let's break down the details, and then let's take a look at those filming locations. So this comes to us from Fear HQ. 28 Years Later star Ralph Fiennes reveals major new plot details and confirms a sequel has been shot. So they're going all in when it comes to this franchise, rebooting this franchise. I mean, they've shot 2 movies already and they're waiting to shoot the 3rd. So they're doing 3 movies, which they must have confidence in this franchise to go all in with 3 movies. But yeah, really exciting time to be a fan of this franchise. These first 2 movies, I absolutely love them. Obviously, we had Jeremy Renner. Hawkeye himself was in the sequel. We had Cillian Murphy, obviously the star of the first movie, now an Oscar winner. He's coming back to produce this trilogy, and he's said to star in this movie, yet there's no confirmation that he's going to be starring in it. But people have speculated that he will be. But anyway, let's break down these details, and then let's check out those images of the movie and the filming locations. So, production is wrapped on the 28 Years Later, the first installment of a planned trilogy, picking up the events of Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later and Juan Fresnadillo 28 Weeks Later. Sorry if I butchered that. Juan Carlos Fresnadillo's 28 Weeks Later. Like I said, guys, if you have not seen those movies yet, I really do recommend it. The take that they do on the zombie genre with 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later is such a visceral take. It's kind of zombies, but it's not zombies. It's like infected humans that have this virus. It's like a rage virus, and it turns people crazy. And, you know, they chase you at full speed. And the way that they film the scenes in those 2 movies, they're just so visceral and so horrific to watch. But it is such a great take on the zombie franchise. A lot of people say that they're not zombie movies, but I see them as zombie movies. You might necessarily not see it that way, but I do. So, while plot details for the movie have been kept under wraps until now, we know that Boyle will return to direct this opening chapter before handing over the reins to Nia DaCosta, who did Candyman. Nia DaCosta also directed The Marvels, you know, that movie obviously done by Marvel and Disney, The Marvels with Brie Larson, so make of that what you will. For the sequel, a movie star, Ralph Fiennes, confirms has already been shot. So, he goes on to say the following, quote, "It's 3 films, of which 2 have been shot," he said in a recent interview with IndieWire. "Britain is 28 years into a terrible plague of infected people who are violent, rabid humans with a few pockets of uninfected communities, and it centers on a young boy who wants to find a doctor to help his dying mother." He leads his mother through the beautiful northern English terrain, but of course around them, hiding in the forest and the hills and woods, are the infected, Fiennes continued. But he finds a doctor who is a man we might think is going to be weird and odd, but actually is a force for good. He finds a doctor who is a man we might think is going to be weird and odd, but actually is a force for good. So it looks like they're, obviously, he's trying to find a doctor for his mother. His mother's got medical issues, and he finds this doctor, and the doctor turns out to be very weird, very quirky, very odd, like it says here, but is actually a force for good. So this doctor's probably been helping people. Maybe he knows something about potentially curing this infection or this virus. He has some sort of inside knowledge, and this boy has maybe been told through other people about this doctor and potentially where his location is. So they're trying to get to this doctor in order to help his mother, and that's kind of what these movies are going to be centered around. I think that's compelling as anything that I could think of. I mean, as a young man trying to protect your mother, having that bond between you know, son and your mother, you know, mother and son, I should say, and trying to protect your mother and trying to get to that doctor and trying to save your mother's life. You know, that's a compelling reason as any to traverse the English countryside, to kind of put yourself in danger to try and protect your own mother. So I completely understand that can be a compelling narrative, having mother and son in that bond, and then trying to protect her, and you know, putting it all on the line in order to find that doctor. So I think that can be a compelling narrative, absolutely. So the impressive cast also includes Aaron Taylor-Johnson, absolutely love him, Jack O'Connell, Erin Kellyman, and the returning Cillian Murphy. While he's not officially attached to star, he will be executive producing and is suspected to make a cameo appearance at the very least. So yeah, like I said, he's been rumored to star in this movie, but I don't think there's been any confirmation of that so far. But he's got to appear in the movie at some point, surely. There's no way he would be attached to this trilogy of the 28 Days Later movies, and he wouldn't appear. He has to appear at some point, surely. So he goes on to say this: I've always said I would love to be involved because that movie changed everything for me. And I have great affection for it. And for those guys, Alex Garland and Danny Boyle, the Oscar winner said back in February, I never watch my own films except that one. It's always on around Halloween, and during the pandemic, people were constantly sending me clips. That's quite funny. And I've shown it to my kids, and it's really stood up, even though it's something like 23 years old. So now I'm really thrilled that we get the band back together to make this one. So yeah, it sounds like he's really appreciative of that movie and what it did for his career back in the early stages of his career. But anyway, guys, with that kind of small plot synopsis there of a son who's trying to protect his mother and find a doctor, let's go over and take a look at some of the filming locations and some of the leaked images. So for those of you who may not have seen it, we covered this on the channel a few months back now when these leaks came out. But let's just go through it again for those of you who may not have seen. So we have this young lad here, this actor. I'm not familiar with him. Obviously, this is Jodie Comer, who's playing the mother role within the movie. But we have this young lad here who's going to be playing the son. And they're out in the English countryside, traversing what looks like to be a moor or some sort of grassy hill area. And it looks like they're being in pursuit by these zombies. So yeah, the young lad here, Jodie Comer, obviously she's on the floor. He's comforting his mother. It looks like she's got medical issues and she can't move very well, or she's struggling to kind of traverse this terrain here. So let's keep going down. Again, you can see here she's bending over. It looks like she's being sick, throwing up. She's definitely not in the best of health by looking at these images. And then this is what concerned me from these leaked images. Seeing this is supposedly the zombies here. Like, looking at this picture here out of context, and the cinematography is not really applied to this image. It's just a still image. But the zombies here look really, really bad in my opinion. It looks like some guys have been covered in mud. The wigs look really bad. Yeah, and it doesn't look good. In this image, these zombies just don't look good whatsoever. I'm calling them zombies, guys. I know in the last video, you guys kind of got on to me about calling them zombies when they're not zombies. They're just infected people with a rage virus. I know, but I just call them zombies. I've always called them zombies when I'm watching this franchise. It's just a quirk of mine. Whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. We know what they are. They're infected humans with a rage virus. I just call them zombies just to make it easier. So I'm just letting you know. But yeah, this kind of concerned me seeing this image here. I was like, this doesn't look that good. They don't look all that scary. They've got bad wigs. It just looks like people covered in mud. So that was kind of a concern of mine. Let's go through to the next one. Again, we've got Jodie Comer standing in front of this kind of screen here, checking out a scene that she's just filmed. Then again, we get the young lad, the mother and son, Jodie Comer, with what appears to be her son. He's got a bow and arrow with, with all the arrows on his back, backpack, and then a tarp on his backpack as well. Then it looks like here they're traversing the moors or over this grassy hill. They're running. They're probably being pursued by those zombies that we just looked at. So that's a pretty cool scene here. Almost looks like a scene out of The Last of Us or something like that, Let's look at a couple more. So again, Jodie Comer up close, her kind of what she's wearing. She's got this kind of big kind of trench coat thing on, wrapped in these kind of cardigans. Again, she doesn't look like she's in the best of health. She's trying her best to run through the countryside. Then we get this kind of petrol station here. Again, looks like a scene ripped out of The Last of Us. That's the kind of vibes it gives us. We got this kind of rundown petrol station here. So it looks like potentially they're on foot trying to find, petrol for their car or something like that. Or they're looking for something inside this petrol station. Obviously, it's hard to know of the context. But I think this looks pretty cool. This scene looks great here. It'd be interesting to see what kind of scene happens within this petrol station. Let's move on to these other pictures. So again, it looks like she's collapsing onto the floor potentially. He's trying to comfort his mother, and we get these petrol canisters here, like covered in all moss and kind of abandoned. Looks pretty cool. I love post-apocalyptic cinematography, where you take like buildings and stuff and you cover them in moss and what they would look like if they'd been abandoned for years. I always love seeing different buildings look abandoned. It's interesting to see what they would look like. And then we got the next set of images. Again, Jodie Comer and her son, and then we get these kind of zombies as well. Again, they look pretty bad in these images, and it has me a little bit concerned. But when you apply the cinematography and you apply, you know, the color grading and different angles in which they'll be filmed within the movie, I'm sure it'll look a lot better. And again, Jodie Comer there at the end, kind of walking towards the camera in her trendy outfit. And then again, we have some of the zombies down here, and we have a spotlight in the back. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we are. The zombies look very different from what they do in the other movies. In the other movies, they look like humans dressed in normal human clothes, and they're kind of covered in blood, and they're like, obviously, their clothing's all ripped, and they're running after humans. But here, they look more kind of Neanderthal, kind of cave people almost. They're like naked. They're naked with kind of like shaggy hair and stuff. But then again, I guess this is 28 years later after the virus has started. So maybe all of their clothes are kind of deteriorated and they're kind of just left in their skin. They've got no clothes left because they've deteriorated after 28 years. And maybe the zombies have kind of mutated and changed a little bit. And maybe that's why we're seeing this kind of difference in the appearance of the zombies here. So that's kind of a breakdown of the images there, guys, of the leaked images that came out from the set. And now let's look at the filming locations. I'm not going to read this article, but we'll just take a look at the images. So 28 years later, cast and crew film in Yorkshire. So this is some of the scenery as well here. We're getting these kind of, these big abbeys, these kind of old brick formations within England here, where some of the scenes are going to be filmed. I think this looks great. This is kind of a really cool area to film 28 years later. I think it's going to look great. Yeah, so security and film crews have been seen at Fountains Abbey near Ripon. So yeah, filming some scenes within these kind of abbey buildings here, these kind of old abandoned buildings. I think it's going to look great. The aesthetic for the movie is going to look really cool if we get some great scenes within these kind of movies. Potentially, they could be camping here overnight. They're hiding here from the zombies or the infected. It'd be interesting to see how these buildings factor into the movie. Moving on. The crew have now taken over the building as this film set. So here they are 28 years later filming Massive for Bradford. So now they're in Bradford. We get this car park here. Again, we get these grassy kind of banks, these grassy moors around. We can see this car park is abandoned with these kind of old cars. Very reminiscent of most zombie movies where you see this kind of old abandoned cars, kind of rusty, flat tires. Pretty damn cool. And then if we go down, we've got this sports center here. It looks like they're taking over this sports center, the Richard Dunn Sports Center, opened in 1978. So it looks like they're filming within this sports center. They might not be using the outside of the sports center. Maybe they're just filming inside it, and then they're going to use the inside of the sports center as a different type of location. That'll be interesting to find out, but this sports center is definitely being featured in the film. Whether it's going to be the inside or the outside only, so we'll have to wait and see how that works out. Then moving on to these images here. Filming of Danny Boyle's 28 years later on Holly Island, Holly or Holy, I'm not sure how you say that, Holy Island, Lindisfarne in Northumberland. Lindisfarne, I think that's how you say it, in Northumberland this afternoon. So this is where it really piqued my interest. We have this really, really small island, and then we have this kind of castle, like this small castle on the inside of the island. This looks pretty cool, like as scenery to film for 28 years later. Obviously, we have a seagull here taking center stage. But yeah, filming on here, maybe this is where a small community has kind of set up shop on this small island here. It's isolated from the mainland, so no zombies are going to be getting over here. But it's a pretty cool scenery to film this movie. Again, we have more of these old kind of castle buildings, abbeys. Obviously, very, very old kind of medieval scenery here. And I think that's kind of a running theme throughout the 28 Days franchise, these kind of old English buildings here. I think it's really, really cool. But yeah, beautiful scenery. I love it. I love the English countryside and the scenery. As a native Englishman myself, I love to appreciate this kind of scenery in my own country. Again, we have this kind of small island here with these kind of rocky outcrops and the kind of grassy bank where they're filming. And then the final image, again, we get another angle of this kind of beautiful looking kind of castle or this keep on this really small island. We have this, we have this kind of stony wall that goes around the perimeter. We have this really small kind of castle keep thing in the middle. and then we have this kind of rocky crop around the edge of the island as well. So yeah, guys, that's just kind of some of the locations, some of the leaked images that we have there for the movie coming out. So, I mean, the scenery with which they're filming this movie in, I think it looks beautiful. It looks really nice. It's very much in keeping with the first movie. If you guys have seen it, they film in one of the kind of old English abbeys, filming locations in that first movie. So they're very much keeping in tone with that first movie. But it looks beautiful. I'm excited. It sounds great. A son senator. You know, the movie centered around a son trying to protect his mother, trying to find this doctor. They ultimately find him. He feels a bit weird and odd, but he's actually a force for good. So, yeah, I think it sounds great. It sounds compelling. I'm excited to see where they go with it. They have confidence. The fact that they've already shot 2 movies and they're waiting to shoot the 3rd. This sounds great. But guys, with everything that we've discussed here and these images that we've looked at, the filming locations, let me know down in the comment section, are you excited to see more 28 Days Later movies? Do these filming locations and this information about what these movies are going to be about, does it get you more excited? Or are you kind of cautiously optimistic? Are you in a wait and see approach, kind of like a lot of people are? Let me know, guys. Drop your thoughts, comments and opinions down below. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe before you leave, and I will see you in the next one.